Instantly replaced.
All right. Hello there, everyone. Welcome to Tapcaf Transmissions, the only Star Wars podcast currently live talking about the Corellian Trilogy. I'm your host for the week, Corey. Joining me, as always, is my efficient co-host, Mr. EckhartsLadder. Justin, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. I think efficient. I feel relatively efficient. How about yourself?
I was feeling efficient, but then I took a nap this afternoon and stayed asleep for like an hour and a half longer than I intended to.
That happened to me last night when I was reading this book. It was like I even tweeted that I was reading it, and then I was like lying down, and I got so cozy, and I realized that like I would been staring at the same page for like an hour, and just like not even fully asleep, just like in half dream world. It was bizarre.
Yeah, I tried to finish it last night and I was just super tired because I'd been up since 3 or 4.
Mm-hmm.
And I just ended up rereading the same page 3 or 4 times, and then I put the book down because I couldn't do it. That isn't me taking a shot at the book. I just legitimately was that tired.
Yeah. It's not the first time it's happened for me. It won't be the last. It's the reality of just trying to force yourself to read sometimes when you're a bit too tired.
Yeah. So, is there any news you want to get into before we jump into our talking about the Corellian Trilogy, Book 1 by Roger McBride Allen?
We had a bit of a Kenobi thing today. Not a full trailer, but it was like a leaked version of I think the Investors Day thing from last year. Just did you see it?
I saw of it, but I didn't see it because I didn't want to see anything.
It's just
Yeah.
concept art, so like, but
Okay,
yeah.
then yeah, I did see that. I thought there was more to it than that.
No, it's just concept art and like a brief interview with like Ewan and Deborah Chow. So not much there. Be more tomorrow for sure.
Yeah. We do have a Disney Plus day coming up, so I'm sure next week we'll talk about it all unless we end up deciding to do something in
Mm-hmm.
the interim. But
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what else we're going to be talking about next week, so if there's enough, maybe a whole episode on that would be the right
Yeah,
call.
that could be a good. We'll have to see. Like no one really knows what's going on tomorrow, so my guess is besides for the Obi-Wan thing, I think we'll probably get something for Andor
Mm-hmm.
because that's also supposed to be the show next year alongside Book of Boba Fett, which will start this year, but on the 29th, so it'll be mostly next year. And we've got probably Mandalorian season 3 and also Bad Batch season 2. I think that's been confirmed as well. Either way, it's probably coming, so it's going to be a very, very busy year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, Rogue Squadron has been pushed back
Mm.
because of Patty Jenkins not being available to film next year. But
Yeah, so that's what they said. Do you believe that?
I do. Like, I think the big problem with a lot of the Star Wars projects, with the movies in particular, is that everything they just want to announce as much as possible.
Yeah.
So even if some ended up dying behind the scenes before ever being announced, it wouldn't come across as big a deal to some people. We just
Hmm.
hear about it 10 years later and think, oh, that would have been cool. But instead, we had 30 shows and the movie announced last year because it seemed like they wanted to get all this stuff out, even though they were at the same time saying they were going to try to slow down the movies. So,
Hmm.
like, I
I
believe
think a
it.
good comparison is Charlie when he starts drinking and like he starts practicing or starts promising like all these things on
Yeah,
Tapcaf that like never get done. Or
yeah.
sorry, on the X2 podcast. Like, oh yeah, I'll definitely do this.
It's like the Jedi Fallen Order video. Like, if people found out about it if or when it came out, then fine. But the fact that he's been talking about working on it for the last 2 years, and I don't think he's finished the game yet.
There
It's
have been whole weeks where I was like, "What did you get done this week, Charlie?" And he'll be like, "Oh, I worked on the Jedi Fallen Order video." I don't fucking know where it is.
yeah. Like I think that tracks. Like, she's got a pretty busy career now, and
Hmm.
production schedules have probably been really messed up by the last year alone. So
Hmm. I think it is kind of unfortunate. It seems like every director that signs on to do a Star Wars movie, or at least many of them, end up putting out a movie that gets poor critical reviews. Like for her, it was the second Wonder Woman movie.
mhm.
People were kind of shitting on. I mean, I didn't see it, so I'm not gonna pretend I'm knowledgeable. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, anyone who gets announced as being attached to a Star Wars movie so far just doesn't end up putting out a Star Wars movie yet.
Hmm.
So we'll
That's
see.
another good point.
But
yeah. So we'll see. We'll see. Well, I'm sure we'll know more tomorrow. Maybe they'll even reveal what's taking the... Because there's also rumors that there's going to be another movie taking the 2023 slot. Whether that's true or not, who knows?
Taika is seemingly still going, so whether it ends up being that or something else, maybe just shift some stuff out. Because a lot of them, they were
like
probably...
It's pretty far off, though. Like...
Well, I don't know that there's anything else that we may or may not know about, because, like, you can't really point to anything else as being closer than Taika's or Rogue Squadron.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah, at least we got lots of shows to look forward to.
do you think there will be anything about video games tomorrow? Because this is the first Star Wars Day or Disney Plus Day or whatever. I guess it is just Disney Plus Day. It's not Star Wars particular. So never mind. That's a stupid.
Yeah, I guess not. No, it's not, because I forgot it is just Disney Plus Day.
Yeah, because I was gonna say this is the first one since Lucasfilm Games took over direct licensing rather than it being an EA thing. But it's not Star Wars. It's just Disney Plus. So
yeah.
Oh well.
So no.
All right. Thanks for listening, everyone.
Yeah.
So yeah, what do you want to get into some Corellian talk, or was there anything else that we should cover for the week?
No, I think that's pretty much it. We did have a bunch of Halo Infinite stuff today. I guess not really relevant to the podcast, but there was like 50 minutes of new stuff today, so that's probably what I'm gonna sit down and watch after this comes out, because I've been so busy today, haven't really got a chance. But yeah, let's talk.
It's campaign stuff, right? Or is it more IGN people running around like a 3-year-old when you give your little brother or little cousin a controller?
Well, it is campaign stuff, but it was done by, I think, the same woman. And she was like, yeah, I played on heroic and I really struggled with this part. And it's like, this is not on heroic. Like, this is like baby shit soft level. Like, like you're getting hit by like a Spartan laser and it's like 2% of your health is going down. Like, come on. But it's like, it's actually really painful to watch. Just because, like, I can't take any comments that someone has seriously about a game when they're that outright bad. Like, talking about the difficulty or the gameplay flow, and like I'm watching them and like it looks like they're playing with their feet.
Like if Charlie does a video reviewing Empire at War ground battles, it's like you're not going to get anything out of that.
There was also
God rest his soul.
God rest his soul. God rest his soul. GameSpot did one too, and theirs was a lot better, but they were still playing on easy mode, so it's like it's kind of hard to take it seriously, because it's like it's just not a good reflection of no one plays Halo on easy. Like even people who aren't good at the game usually play on normal, because easy is just so easy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because like if people do that, no shade. It's just when you're trying to review like how the gameplay actually works, it's not going to give the best indication for the majority of players.
Yeah, I'm definitely not one of those difficulty shaming people. Even like games like Dark Souls or whatever, where people like the difficulty like gurus are kind of elitist about it. Just like for one, like a lot of what I've learned, and this is way off topic for the podcast, is like a lot of some of it has to do with like people with disabilities too. Like not just people who, for one, it's not everyone has time to practice and play video games, but another is like people with disabilities like can't always play as well, because sometimes they have to use modified controllers or whatever else, or like there's other factors. So that's another reason why different difficulties should exist, or why like games now will go out of their way to like, because certain people with certain disabilities may not be able to like mash an A button, for example. Or may struggle with like really quick reaction things for quick time events. So most good games nowadays are allowing you to kind of tailor it to your experience. Like I saw the new Forza game, you can basically play in slow motion, which a lot of people are really a fan of.
Yeah, I saw a tweet of someone getting really mad about just seeing that accessibility mode exists in a game. It's like, why would you get mad about that? It doesn't impact what you're playing with if you don't want that. Just stop.
Yeah, like I remember, I forget who it was like, where's your sense of pride in beating the video game? And I was just like...
That was when Vegeta did his video game reviews, though. So
It's like, I don't know. It's like, who cares? It's a video game. Like, not all of us have time to not all of us have time to dedicate our lives to something. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
All right. Well, what were your thoughts on being ambushed at Corellia?
I like this book. I thought it was this is like, for me, the quintessential B book, though.
Wow, you just
I'm just going to say my rating right off the bat. This is a
okay.
quintessential B book because there was no point where I wished I was reading something else, but there was also no point where I was like super blown away by what I was reading. I thought all the characters were written pretty well. I thought this is a pretty early book, like in terms of like publishing. This is 94, I think. So there was some like wacky stuff with like the world building, but I thought it was pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, what about you?
Yeah, I mostly agree. I don't think I'm gonna put it at a B. It might end up in a C, but I did really enjoy it. I think it almost it captures the feel of like the Star Wars original trilogy adventure stuff in a way that's similar to the Thrawn trilogy, but just like that step worse. But and that was the one we did our re-rankings last week for anyone who missed that episode, and we put those at like 6, 5, 6, both of us for the Thrawn trilogy. So when I say it's like a worse version of that, I'm not trying to say that to be like shitting on this. It's just it doesn't quite live up to that level, but it does a good job with what it tries to do here. There's a lot of fun character stuff, especially I really enjoy the Luke and Lando plot, as weird as it is.
Yeah, me too.
And as creepy as it is in some ways. Like there's enough fun interactions between Luke and Lando, and they both feel kind of true to their characters. So
yeah, like half the book is just Lando like calling women slightly fat and stuff.
Yeah, like it's not great. It's not great, but just the character moments for them are relatively
Corey's a misogynist?
fitting.
What?
Okay,
No,
well,
okay.
Especially after reading the Black Fleet Crisis, I don't know if that's skewing my perception of those subplots now. After like 3 books of just dreading going on to the Lando subplot or the Luke subplot.
Yeah, yeah, I enjoyed it too. It's silly, like it's like it starts off with him traveling through the Coruscant and finding Lando's new what's it called again? Dome City or Dome Town?
Yeah, Dome Town. Which sounds like where you go when you're getting cracked with the sniper rifle in Halo.
Yeah, or we're going for some
okay, well we're
business,
not. It's
but
family show. It's not.
It's not at all. Lando was looking for Dome Town all book is the thing, but I wonder if they go back to Dome Town at any point. But
that's in the Lando Calrissian Adventures: Return to Dome Town. I think it does actually get mentioned in the NJO.
That's where they put the refugees inside Dome Town on the on like the freshly manicured lawns and stuff. But yeah, for me, I think it was like the weakest part was maybe just I thought, I don't know, how do you feel about like Corellia as a whole, its portrayal? Maybe a bit strange. I can't decide.
Like the portrayal of the planet and how it all works
and the
there?
system, and yeah.
I don't know. I kind of like the world building on Corellia more than I like the specific plot on Corellia so far. Like my biggest disappointment with the book so far was that I remembered the scene of Han getting his ass beat by the Salonian as being in this book.
I remember that too.
Rather than at the start of Assault at Salonia, which I should have realized because that's what it refers to, I'm sure. But
it's actually Assault by Salonian.
Yeah, it was a typo because it does happen on Corellia, but we're basically opening up with that next time. So the fact that all these chapters on Corellia and that never came up, I was disappointed. That's why I'm giving this book an F. But
yeah, you were teased basically by yourself.
Like I like the idea of these like formerly integrated worlds that became these Imperial rump states that had those tendencies to want to separate themselves, that just got kind of ramped up, and seeing all these different tensions that arose after the Empire, but also hearing about how the kind of backwards way the Empire cracked down on them. Like I think in its broad strokes, it works really well with that, even if in some of the specifics it it ends up being kind of weird. Like the archaeology side is kind of fun, but
Just the fact that I guess the New Republic has like installed a governor
yeah,
is very strange to me. Like especially where so much of the stuff that would actually come out later would be about kind of the New Republic trying to encourage people to join. Where it
yeah.
seems like Corellia just kind of like got assimilated or something.
Yeah, that's one thing I wish they had gone into a bit more detail of, like how Corellia actually joined, which I think does get like fleshed out a bit in source books. But here it is kind of,
Mhm.
it does seem like they just went in, installed McCamber who has like no business being there really. Is Froz in the sector even?
I
I
have
don't
no
think so.
idea.
Let's see.
Yeah, I have no idea.
No, it's an outer outlier system world, so he's not
Okay.
entirely separate from it. But I don't know. Like how can you not see it coming that the guy's going to be seen as a New Republic stooge and just be used as a flashpoint for
Well, I
all
mean, they're
their
basically
hate?
using him as a moth, so like I don't know what they're
Yeah,
expecting generally. Like they're entirely imperial, and Leia's like, we're gonna need to invade probably. Like, what are you talking about? Like, just let them do their own thing. But yeah.
it does seem like their own thing would have been the humans winning out and being basically just a mini empire again under
Hmm.
Sal-Solo, but
Yeah. So should we talk about? Let's talk about the general premise. So the book
Lando is
starts
trying to
out.
get laid. That's the main premise for the book.
Yeah, Lando's trying to get a nut. And like Mon Mothma intervenes. Lando's had such a dry spell. Yeah. But what was I gonna say? So it starts off. The book kind of paints it as I think a more peaceful time than it ends up actually have being. Like when you take the kind of everything in context. So this is what 18 or 19 ABY.
Yeah,
So it's about a year or so after Black Fleet Crisis. Um, and like I said, this was written quite early on in the Star Wars chronology. Um, so I don't think the author realized how much would kind of be pushed in. Like I think the Black Fleet Crisis came out maybe a few months after this.
yeah,
Um, so but it's portrayed as a very peaceful time. Like Mara basically talks about the Empire being completely gone. Leia talks about like the New Republic fleet being mothballed, which again I don't know. It seems a little premature, but basically there's this trip to Corellia that the Solos are doing, and Han is warned by a New Republic intelligence agent that stuff is going down on Corellia. No one really knows because people keep disappearing. Han and Leia decide it's a good idea to bring their family there regardless, and they go in as kind of a distraction. Well, that's what Han believes, anyways, but also to figure out what's going on. And then when they reach Corellia, they find out kind of the planet's just in turmoil. The whole sector, I'm sure, is really in turmoil. And shit just gets worse, really.
yeah. So the main three powerful species in the Corellian system and the sector are the humans, Solonians, and Drawl. So like humans and then two different varieties of furries. You got
Mm-hmm.
your tall furries and your shorter furries. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
but then there's also other species that live in the outer systems. Like we just learned the Froz are one of them. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
but they're all trying to vie for power on these five main Corellian worlds and take over the system. Uh, there's some different combinations and alliances on different planets, so it's all really disorganized. But we have that as the main that gets kind of set up in this book. Not as much develops with it. You
Yeah.
kind of get to a flashpoint at the end where it's all about to
Race
kick
war.
off. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, I mentioned an archaeology dig that the solos go with their tutor for the kids to learn about
Yeah.
apparently the first archaeological dig ever on Corellia because no one
Yeah.
gave a fuck before.
We're too busy like drinking and stuff.
Yeah, and then it's a bunch of douches in their Proud Boy outfits digging up skeletons of human Solonians and Draw and just
Just
like piling them
yelling
up
helter
somewhere.
skelter as loud as they can.
So yeah,
Yeah.
it's not great. But that plot gets more set up here and it kind of
Mhm.
gets more into the actual developments in the next two books. Then we have the second subplot of Lando wanting a wife with a lot of money. He gets Luke to agree to go with him because Mon Mothma's like, you need to develop some of your other skills,
Mon
Luke.
Mothma basically cucks Luke. Like she just not cucks, but she just invites him over to insult him.
Yeah, like, well, you keep saying Leia needs to train her Jedi skills, but you're also a shitty politician, and you could be a good leader for the New Republic. So, who sucks now? And you know what's a good way to help develop your skills is go with Lando on his whirlwind courting adventures. How she knows about it, I don't know, but
she's been DMing Lando all day. Lando's tried to hit her up. She's so desperate.
is that why she wants Luke to help him? So like, leave
please,
him alone.
Please get him off my back. But it's kind of funny too with like the context now that we know that like Mon Mothma was active during the prequel era when the Jedi were around, and like the idea of like a divine Jedi president is completely different than kind of what came before.
Yeah,
so, that's just kind of
maybe
funny.
don't do that.
Yeah, I'm looking at the book release order, and it is pretty remarkable how early these came out. So it was 95, March of 95. The only things that had came out before that were the Thrawn Trilogy, a few of the like Jedi Prince series, those book, the Jedi Academy Trilogy, Crystal Star, Courtship, Intrusive Pakura. That was it, really.
Yeah.
So
I think the author's note, I think this is the one that mentions writing it on the train.
Yeah, the author's kind of like low-key bragging about everywhere he's been.
Yeah. But also just how quickly he banged him out. Like,
Yeah.
Just to be for the record, this book was written somehow between April 1st, 1994 and September 20th, 1994. It was written in the following places. Lisbon, the train from Lisbon, etc. There's like, there's a bunch of...
He's globe-trotting because he got married at the same time and went on. Yeah. So, I don't know if that's a good... Like, I don't know if I would be bragging about that. Like, I got this done when I was very busy. Like, I'll brag about, like knocking out a video in, like, an hour, but, like, Lucasfilm doesn't pay me for that unless it's about the High Republic.
Yeah, then, well, you don't get the weekly check?
No, not since I did all the tracing videos.
That's sad. Yeah, Mickey came to my house and really fucked me up last week too, so as we saw.
That's why there's no stream tonight after this, because we're all recovering from the brutal beatdown we got.
Yeah, Charlie got the worst of it. I like how, so the book does start with the warning that Kalenda gives Han about going to Corellia, and Han's like, are you saying, would it be dangerous to take my kids to Corellia? And then Kalenda goes into this long spiel about, like, oh, well, Webster's dictionary really defines danger as, like, could you stub your toe? Sure, maybe an explosion. But then, like, everyone stubs their toe sometimes. Like, okay, well, this seems like a not great idea. Maybe I won't take my kids there after their history of getting kidnapped. Just a thought.
Yeah, it's like Han's like excuse for dragging his kids into like a place where like nobody's returning from is like, hey, they got to experience the world. I don't want my kids to be privileged, but it's like there's a difference between like maybe taking your kids to like see how the moisture farmers on Tatooine live and like maybe taking them into like an active soon to be war zone.
Yeah.
And like for one, your kids have been kidnapped like a bunch. So like and they're about to go spend all their time on a jungle planet. Like, let's chill out.
This is the first set of books or set of really anything where Jason, Jaina, and Anakin are like actual characters rather than just like baby props to be kidnapped.
If it was this book that kind of established their character, because we do start to see like the Jason is pretty empathetic, and we only get a little bit of it. Jaina's, you know, kind of more like Chewbacca, and she likes the ship and stuff, and Anakin likes computers, and he has a kind of savant for fixing things.
See, I actually felt like they were very different from how they'd be portrayed later. Like, Anakin ends up having kind of what Jaina's skill set is going to be. Like, he does remain kind of good with computers and stuff, but here he's like the tech one, which is usually Jaina. She gets that in the piloting. And Jason was like mostly a dick, which is his skill set much later on, but he doesn't seem to have as much of the empathy as he would later.
I noticed there were a few times where like Jaina was described as like off with Chewbacca. But yeah, I guess you're right. I guess Which I can't. To be honest, I don't really remember how much of that Anakin gets later on.
Yeah, he's usually more. I want to just fight people.
Mm-hmm.
But here
Yeah.
he's described as like just the weird younger brother who's good at everything. And Jaina and Jason don't really have that many skills of their own. Their skills seem to be more like Anakin manipulator.
Mm-hmm.
But I did think it was
Yeah.
kind of weird the way they'd speak too, because the twins are 9 and Anakin 7, so there's not a huge gap there. But
No.
the twins end up talking like they're like adults in the words they use,
Mm.
and Anakin just seems like I would have believed he was 3 from how he's written.
It's weird. There's sometimes where I agree. Like when he sees Luke, he like goes to full like child mode.
Yeah.
There are other times when like he's kind of normal, but yeah, it's really bizarre. It's like sometimes I feel like Star Wars authors do not know how to write women and children.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like Mother, I think I can't remember if it was Mother Leia who got a bit of a awkward right, but yeah, not the first time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Won't be the last.
No, of course not. Just looking at my notes here. Yeah, I actually enjoyed the. I like the sequence where the agent is like crashing. I thought that was pretty fun.
Yeah.
Because basically the agent who warns Han early also gets inserted into Corellia, and she gets shot down. And there's kind of a cool bit of her like surviving, and she crashes her ship. It's a very long sequence actually. And eventually she kind of like sets up in an apartment where Leia is. Leia, by the way, doesn't have any escort. She's by herself. Like I don't care. Like if you're the president of the galaxy,
Yeah.
like at least take your Nogri with you. Because she probably didn't have the Nogri guard established at this point in the lore. But I mean, she would have had it in the lore, but not in a prior chronologically released book. But yeah, like that was the part that was a bit hardest for me to believe. Like, and that's kind of one problem that Leia has a lot, where she like the authors try to give it to her both ways, where she still goes on these small scale adventures, but is also the president
Yeah.
or the chief of state. It's like it's not necessarily believable. Like I think the Thrawn trilogy actually handles. I believe it's the Thrawn trilogy. She's not even chief of state at that point. Handles it quite well. Where like she's got Rogue Squadron escorting her at some point. And I was like, okay, that makes sense.
Well, here we do start, like, when they're on the way to Corellia, they at least try to give the Falcon an E-test and a safety test, but Han had made Lando fake that for him, because they didn't want the Corellians to know that the Falcon still had all these extra capabilities. But at least they're checking.
Yeah. It's also kind of funny, too, because I can't remember which book it was, but just a couple of books ago, the Falcon was completely rebuilt by the New Republic. Remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Chewie's family does it in Black Fleet Crisis, and then it's also rebuilt.
Like, the New Republic basically completely rebuilds it.
Yeah.
I thought the shield test was kind of clever. Basically, they turn the shields on, and you set the ship down on the shields, like to see if the shields can support it. I thought that was kind of a neat idea, something I could see, actually happening in the universe.
Shields can't stop physical stuff, though.
Oh, really?
The ground. That's why you can never have shields that stop proton torpedoes. Then what's the point of having them?
Yeah, I put in a video today about like the Death Star and like the shields of the Death Star, and all the comments were like, the Death Star has shields. That's what they talk about when they're flying the X-Wings through it. I'm like, they're flying X-Wings through it. Like, what are you talking about? Like, it has little shields across the surface, but like, it's different.
Shields work however they need to work for the plot point in question. That's basically how it goes.
I actually do think, though, that Return of the Jedi gives us the strongest evidence of shields actually doing something to projectiles, because they have to pull up as they're approaching the Death Star.
Well, I think this does here as well. Like, yeah, the shield's still up. We got to pull back.
Yeah.
But
I mean for a movie, though.
Yeah, resting the ship on. Well, also when they're when Anakin and Obi-Wan are flying into the invisible hand, and Obi-Wan says, "Have you noticed the shields are still up?" Not, hey, that's cool. The shields are still up anyway. Let's keep going.
Yeah.
So
I don't like when I've been reading the books, I expected a bit more kind of back and forth on the shielding issue, but I noticed it's actually been a lot more consistent than I figured about kind of how shields work, particles and energy not being able to pass through. So that was good, just generally.
well, the
But
split
yeah,
between particle and ray shielding is the one that's less consistent. Where like source books tend to say it's different types of shielding that are stopping them. Most books will usually just treat it as one thing. Like
yeah,
Rogue Squadron has a lot of we're shooting all of our projectiles at this one place on the shield. Then that'll be able to like blow up the shield in that one place, and you go through and go
yep,
from there. But
yeah, yeah, totally. But that scene in Return of the Jedi is the only one in the movies I can really
yeah,
think of where it's like there's a reason to believe the Last Jedi is the worst in the other way, where you see them shoot through the shields and then they fly right through.
hmm
Um, Kylo does in his TIE fighter.
Did you get anything from the Republic Imperial War when they're coming into the Corellian system and talking about how there's so much debris pretty much all over the galaxy from the huge Republic Imperial War that was basically assumed to be what kind of came in or came out of the Clone Wars at the time?
No, I didn't pick up on that. I read it. I thought they just meant like the Dark Empire stuff in the Thrawn campaign. I didn't realize that was meant to be that Republic, because there's a few times that they use Republic kind of interchangeably with New Republic.
Yeah, they mention the Rebel Empire War in other places.
Hmm.
And there are a lot of like Bantam books, the earlier Bantam books that talk about like the Republic fighting the Empire and that leading into the Empire and being like a slower
Hmm.
transition rather than the Republic becoming the Empire
Hmm.
immediately.
Yeah.
So I think
Yeah,
that's
no,
what they mean there. Maybe they
I
do
think you're
mean
probably.
Dark Empire, but
I think you're probably right. But no, I didn't pick up on that. There is some other inconsistency as well, though, where it talks about like Han being born under the Empire was one thing I noticed. Um, because like when they're talking about how, so the idea is after the Empire fell, they were kind of the one force stopping everyone from like beating up on each other. Um, and Han is kind of, it's kind of said that Han was born within the Empire. So
yeah.
yeah, obviously that doesn't work with the timeline.
Yeah, because I think they talk about was it, do I have the right page? Yeah. No, it doesn't give the timeline for this, but one grim legacy of the Republic Imperial Day War. Uh, Corellia skies were just as full of junk as most places these days. Most star systems were declared with shot up spacecraft of one sort or another.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Yeah.
especially with how isolated Corellia was supposed to have been, I don't. It doesn't
Mm-hmm.
make as much sense to me that that would be a reference to the Dark Empire period.
Yeah, they don't really talk about there being any fighting over Corellia, so I think you're probably right.
Because that would probably come up in their discussion of like uh, who was in charge when.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it seems like Corellia kind of got out the end of the war pretty painless, it seems like.
Yeah, like the X-wing books are a bit more explicit on like Republic fighting the Empire, and I think Thrawn trilogy does it as well.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah, I'm trying to think of some. Yeah, Thrawn trilogy does a bit with like the. I don't know if they mentioned they go big into like the clone masters and stuff. I don't know if
yeah,
they mention the Republic especially, but maybe. Just trying to think if there's anything else about like the actual plot I want to discuss. Um, I like seeing. So Corellia's kind of went into a really big economic downturn, partially because they've kind of went totally inward facing after the war. Um, so like nobody's coming in. They become kind of openly xenophobic. So Han's not been to Corellia for a long time, long enough that all of his old warrants have expired, which I thought was kind of funny. Um, and yeah, it's just like everything that he remembered from his childhood has just gone to shit, which is very sad.
yeah. Keel Hall is mentioning that Anakin's behavior might be a representation of Asperger's, which I kind of started thinking that at first, but then Jaina and Jason speaking
Mm-hmm.
like 30 to 40-year-olds made me lean more towards possibility that the author just doesn't have a great grasp on
I feel
like
like he might have written this in
ages.
3 months, maybe.
Yeah. So I think that might be what he was going for, but I like
Yeah,
just
I can see
the
that.
I think he might just also consider the age of 8 to be a huge cutoff point in
Hmm.
development.
I never
But
really got. They mentioned Ghent as well. I never really got the Asperger's feeling from Ghent either. I kind of just. To me, he was more written like like a nerd, I guess.
yeah,
Like because
Thrawn in the
like
new trilogy is kind of like the first one where it's been a lot more clear on author intent there,
mhm.
but it could be the case here as well.
Yeah, definitely could be. I like kind of technological savant Anakin. I think he's fun. I like the part where he's like, you got to hold this for like three. I forget what word he uses. And they're like, what the hell is that?
Glurkins or
Yeah,
something.
three. He's like, hold this. You got to put your finger here for three glurkins. They're like, what's that? He's like, I don't know. Clearly, he's just like learning it just through intuition and the force, which I thought was kind of cool.
There was
'Cause he,
another. Oh, sorry.
no, go ahead.
I was gonna go to something else, but another kind of '90s thing, and probably not like this usage of it was probably already on its way out by the '90s, but there were multiple mentions of preventing hanky panky, which to
Yeah,
me reads as purely sexual, but in
yeah,
here it's just like
just
funny
trouble
business.
or anything.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Especially
yeah.
when like Lando says that Luke is along to prevent any hanky panky with his
It's like,
drip.
shouldn't he be
Like,
encouraging
yeah,
that?
that's what
Like,
Lando's looking
yeah,
for.
yeah. Oh, we didn't talk about the sex witch yet, or
We
the.
haven't. We haven't.
I
I
always
figured
got it
we
for
go
like
through
a
all of.
vampire. Yeah. So he meets Lando on his adventure. He meets I guess three women, really just two. The first is a sex witch. I kind of felt like she's like she was one part of this book that I like very clearly remembered, but
Mhm.
she's not really like evil or
No.
anything. Like which is something that I forgot. Basically, she like kind of she steals but gives life force at the same time. So you go to her and basically she gives you a few good years of life. And then it sounds like she kind of just consumes your life force. Um, and but like for Lando, that's bad because he's got a lot more than 5 years left. But she kind of
Yeah.
talks about how most of her husbands, and she's at over 50, are like, or she's Lando would have been her 50th, are kind of just like people who are sick or whatever.
Yeah.
So I totally misremember that. I just remembered her being a vampire.
Yeah. So 3PO calls her a life witch, and
Hmm.
she prefers the term life bearer because it
Hmm.
sounds less evil. I was actually
Hmm.
working on a video about this, but then I scrapped it. I might redo it better,
There's just
but I
not
couldn't
very
figure out.
much.
Yeah, I was trying
Yeah.
to find a way to frame it that wasn't just reading that paragraph, but because there were a few things that were kind of unclear with this, because the elements of it that are just tradition versus the elements that are like a direct
Magic.
necessary part of their magic, because like otherwise it's a very
Yeah.
specific contractual magic. Or and like they could use it in these other ways, but she talks about how the life bearers only do it with uh it this kind of partnership
Hmm.
wifey way. Like, is it necessary after you do the blood kiss to live in a domestic situation with that person? Because she makes it sound like there's all these other things necessary. But it's like, no, are you just
Yeah.
making yourself be a enforced
Or
housewife for this?
yeah, or like is the blood kiss like actually like magic or is that just their way of getting consent? Like, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
could she have done it even without the blood thing or is it like, you know,
Yeah,
whatever.
and like these are questions that need to can it only happen between her and like other male humans? Can it happen if in a same-sex
It's going to be
partnership?
Charlie's last hope to save his butthole.
God rest his soul.
God rest his soul. Um he's going to
But
have Crohn's or something. We're going to feel so bad for making
yeah,
fun of him.
but the I do think if this is like an "Am I the asshole?" post, I think she does get a soft "You're the asshole" here because she should never just assume that people know she's a life bearer. She should have
Mhm.
made that explicitly clear and not been like, "Oh, well, this is not what I usually do, but let's go get married immediately, anyways." You got to say, "Oh, just to be clear, you are aware that you're dead in 5 years, right?"
Yeah,
And
now I'm kind of like wondering a bit, like, why would she rush it so much? Was it because she thought he was sick or something? Because she really tries to rush him through the procedure. But she
I
also doesn't try to like be secretive about it when she's
no.
confronted. So
Well, she has to find another partner before she dies. So like she can
mhm.
only exist in this housewife form, and that's why I'm kind of wondering, is this something that she's choosing to do in that form, or does she just, like, if she wants to exist, have to be in this housewife situation for the
Mhm.
rest of eternity, which would kind of suck. Not great.
This doesn't Luke also wonder whether she's a normal human or not? Um, because she's
Yeah.
not clearly an alien.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, it's a genetic anomaly, I think, is basically the way it's brought up. A
mm,
genetic anomaly on Currialarsal, Laria Cursil, something like
yeah,
that.
yeah.
Because
Oh
like
right,
it's
because
not
she's got like a
a
name.
yeah, Kyria Van Syrian.
All the planets in this were written to be very Earth-like. Like they even drive cars for most of like wheeled vehicles for a lot of it, which I thought was
Yeah,
kind of funny.
a ground car or a hover car.
I like when they use truck in like an X-wing whenever it's like a well they even use truck sometimes for like hover vehicles, but I just find that funny. It's just
Huh.
like it's a Star Wars truck.
Yeah, like what do you want? It's got a box. It
It's a
moves.
truck. Yeah,
Because it's the future doesn't mean you don't still need trucks.
exactly. Built Ford tough.
Yeah,
Um,
so Lando in his top list of hundreds of candidates, I think he's made a list of 200, and he's hoping to just
mhm,
maybe have to visit 10. He got Luke to agree to 5.
mhm.
Uh, the one after the life bear they go to is someone who got married already. It was like, ooh, this is
Yeah.
awkward.
Lando doesn't even send them like a DM to let them know, like
Yeah,
text me or something.
yeah. Well, when they're going to see Tendra, Luke's like, hey, have you considered calling ahead? And Lando's like, excuse me, what?
Yeah.
I do like when it mentions just how expensive the calling over the HoloNet is,
Hmm.
and all these other reasons that most of the galaxy probably never interacts with another planet despite living in Star Wars.
Yeah. It's kind of a mundane existence for a lot of people.
Yeah. They don't have their own Millennium Falcon. It's all the 1%
No.
that gets to travel in space.
Yeah, it reminds me of like we kind of had the discussion about that for Black Fleet Crisis, where it's like so they spend so much time just like sitting like in like space waiting to go to the planet and shit.
Yeah.
Um, yeah,
Not ideal.
no, not ideal at all. So
Holo
yeah,
communication still sucks, and they go in even more on how it sucks in NJO. Like
hmm
it's not that reliable.
yeah, especially because in NJO, isn't it like, especially like in the kind of outer rim and like there's a
Yeah.
big
Well,
disconnect.
even in core planets, they kind of lose touch after the Vong take Coruscant because they're
Hmm.
relying on specific holonet relays. So then Han and Leia's
Hmm.
job is to go around and try to find ways to contact different factions, like
Hmm.
the Yavithans and the Siruvi, all their old friends.
All the fun, yeah, the fun ones.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I like that part about the High Republic too, where it's like they're trying to build a kind of a HoloNet or HyperNet relay to
Yeah.
connect the galaxy. I thought it made sense.
Yeah.
Yep.
Uh. Yeah. I do think it's a little weird that the book kind of goes out of its way to talk about Tendra as if like her and Lando have this very different connection from anything he's experienced before, and is purely shallow
Yeah.
sex adventures. And it's like Tendra is not the most conventionally attractive person that Lando had ever seen.
But
Uh,
like it spends like the paragraph before that talking about how like she is attractive by all measures other than being like slightly chunky.
yeah, it's not written great, but then like even the elements of her, like there's a picture from the Corellian trilogy where she looks like just kind of normal, but
Hmm.
then the one from the Essential Reader's
Yeah.
Companion is
Yeah.
like everything they're
She looks
describing
like
she isn't.
yeah, she looks like she could be on like Housewives of the Corellian system or something.
Yeah.
Oh my god, the picture of her from some source book, I assume. Oh, Kraken's threat dossier. Yeah, like she. You thought they did the. You thought they did the endurance class pad. She's wearing jeans under a fucking I don't even know. She's got shoulder pads on. She's got the same hair that like they give all those source books give every woman who
Yeah.
wasn't like you're either like conventionally attractive with long hair or like you got the Arisi Delart haircut.
Yeah, I was gonna say just copy pasted from the comic.
Oh shit.
I don't
Wow.
understand why there's such an inclination to give people pauldrons in like just random outfits in almost every sci-fi. What are they for? They don't do anything.
I mean, to be fair, like shoulder pads were, kind of big in the 80s and 90s, so
Not that
Even-
big.
well, not that big. They weren't actually like pauldrons, but
Yeah, like not literally that big. I don't mean like fashionable. I
no.
mean
No, I
literally
know
the
what you
size
mean.
the size on them. It makes going through
Yeah.
doorways a fucking hassle.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a mystery, I guess.
Yeah.
I
We do
gotta
get
say,
Oh, go ahead.
oh sorry, I was just gonna say how I was disappointed when I saw Solo and they didn't. I thought they might throw in a reference to the other Corellian species in Solo: A Star Wars Story, or whatever it was called.
Yeah, I think there's budget concerns and you can just ration it away as like that you see the Imperial recruiting post. So
No
all
aliens
humans
nearby.
there. There you
Yeah.
go.
Yeah. Yeah,
Maybe
fair
some
enough, I
like we haven't
guess.
even gotten a live action Bothan yet, so the chances of getting a live
That's
action
so true. We haven't even got an animated Bothan, I don't think, have we?
We have. I think there were some in the Clone Wars.
Really?
Uh
I don't think so. Maybe though.
there had to be a Bothan in some animated thing, wasn't there?
No, because they just went to canon and there's no canon
Hmm.
depiction of a Bothan. So,
There's one that like might be one from Resistance.
yeah, I remember that. Do you follow that
Huh.
guy on Twitter? Is it a Bothan or whatever his name is?
No.
What's his name? Is it a Bothan Twitter?
I could have swore there was one in Clone Wars, but apparently not.
Hey, it's just called Is It a Bothan? Helping Star Wars fans determine whether or not a character is a Bothan. Many died. So like people will just tweet him pictures of Bothans or like not Bothans, usually creatures that look like Bothans, and he'll say yes or no. It's one of my favorite kind of Star Wars niche Twitter accounts.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a thing that exists, I guess.
You should actually. I'm reading through his tweets. They're pretty goddamn funny.
I'll get
Oh
to it.
yeah, he's got the one from Resistance.
What's his
So-
verdict?
He said he wrote in quotes, "Stop crying, it's just a TV show." So I'm assuming he thinks it's a Bothan, and it does look like a Bothan to me. So yeah.
I don't know. Maybe in one of the many upcoming shows we'll get one.
Did you ever see the? I think we might have talked about this on the podcast before, but hold on, I'm gonna link this to you on Facebook.
Okay.
The weird human Bothans that they went with for a while. Yeah, I'll put it in our X2 Facebook chat.
All right. Let's see. What do we got here? It is a. Oh yeah, fuck yeah. That was awful. The ones they look almost like fawns from fucking Chronicles of Narnia.
Yep. Yeah, and they've got little like I don't know, is it those eyebrows or does he have like a little? I don't know. It's they're strange. It's not good. It's not
So
good.
Bothans are all just video games now.
Mm-hmm.
Got them in Tor, Empire at War, a few other places, but no TV shows, no live action movies, no animated anything. This is terrible. I don't understand how it could happen.
It's strange too because they get outright mentioned. So
Yeah.
I don't know. You'd think.
If they can come up with a backstory for literally every character in the cantina in episode 4, you'd think they'd throw in a Bothan in something, but
Yeah,
apparently not.
Guess not.
All right.
I'm just trying to think. The only thing I wanted to mention is so in this one we get lots of allusions to Center Point Station, but it's always just kind of glossed over.
Yeah.
Which I thought was interesting. So like they talk about Center Point Station existing, but nothing else. They don't even say what it is. They just will mention Centerpoint Station.
Yeah, it obviously plays a bigger role later, but for some reason I remembered them finding the underground control room in the
Mm-hmm.
archaeological dig. I remember that as being on Centerpoint Station for some reason. I think I might
So
be
did
getting it.
I.
I think it might be because of the Legacy of the Force stuff where Jason and Ben are infiltrating Centerpoint. Because you get some kind of
Yeah.
similar vibes from it,
Do
especially
they
with
not go to
the
it at all? I don't remember.
in this. I'm pretty sure they
Yeah.
do, but like
Okay.
now it's
Okay.
like
Yeah.
now I don't trust any of my memories of it because there was no Han getting his ass beat by an otter or
Mm-hmm.
Centerpoint in this one. So
See, I didn't even remember that otter bit until you mentioned it. Like the only thing, funny enough, one thing I did remember really, really liking their teacher,
yeah,
um,
Ibrahim.
Ebrahim and his droid. Like that, those are characters I completely forgot about until I started reading it, and I was like, oh yeah, these guys are in this story.
Yeah,
I really like them. They're cool.
yeah. He he just takes over that the meeting with Leia or the interview with Leia. He's like, I'm gonna teach your kids. It's gonna be great. Then
Like,
they
why
go
do
to
your
the
kids want
first.
to learn under me? Yeah.
Then they go on the first field trip, and Leia's like, "Did you just do this as an excuse to go yourself?" Yeah,
Maybe I did. What are
of
you gonna
course
do
I
about it?
did.
And the droid's like also running security for them at the same time and like not telling anybody. It's kind of epic.
I did really like the line of like, "Is the pay adequate?" And she's like, "Well, I guess it's adequate, but I'd be an idiot if I
You
turned
want to
down more if you're
you want to pay me?
offering."
Yeah, like you read it expecting him to be like, "Oh, I do this purely to teach the next generation." He's like, "Well, give me more money, shit. I ain't gonna say no." It's like such a Leia thing too. They get there and she's immediately trying to pawn off her kids.
Yeah.
Like, just teach them yourself for 2 weeks.
Well, she doesn't know anything about the planet. If only
Yeah,
she had like someone else that
yeah.
was
Only
closely
she
related
had.
to the kids who could talk about the planet some more. But we'll never know.
If only there was some local guide who could help them. But yeah,
I mean, the places Han would know, probably not the most child friendly. So,
yeah.
hey
Han
kids, we're
knows
going to
every
another
dive
casino.
bar, but yeah, yeah.
Daddy's gonna win big tonight.
Great stuff.
We do get the first introduction of Thracken Sal-Solo here at the end as
Mm-hmm.
well, who's going to be a perennial villain leading like every shitty faction for the rest of forever. Like you
Yeah,
got the
until
Human League
Han just
here.
straight up assassinates him. It's sick.
He deserves it.
He does 100%.
He
I
runs the
remember
Human
like
League here. He runs the Diversity
in
Alliance, or not the Diversity Alliance, uh the Peace Brigade and the NJO. He
mhm.
runs the Confederacy in Second Galactic Civil War. Like every fucking time, he just keeps getting away with
Dude, I got bricked up when he gets killed.
it.
Because I'm pretty sure that's after he had just tried to kill one of the solo kids. I was thinking too. I was like, because there's one point where they were talking about Chewie's life debt and how it extends to the kids. I was like, man, I wonder how Chewie's. I don't remember what Chewie does when like they got it. They have to kill Jason. I was like, oh right, he's gone.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
Leia does worry a lot about like her kids growing up,
Yeah.
teaching them like, got some bad news for you.
Yeah.
Sith Lord, sort of dark side for a while, but Jaina mostly turns out fine, although she does start the next empire with her husband, and
It's
Anakin's
gonna go
dead at
way
14.
worse than you think.
Yeah.
You're
Your
not
kids are not
worrying
all right.
enough.
Maybe stop Jason from torturing those animals or something.
It's like we caught Jason dissecting a porg. It's not a big deal. Don't worry about it.
What I really don't understand is how anyone would fall for Thracken leading the Peace Brigade in the NJO. It's like the most racist man you know is suddenly trying to say that they should be working with the invading
Mhm.
aliens. Like no one's gonna believe that, and yet they do.
Well, doesn't he become Dictat later?
He becomes Dictat in this, and then he re-dictats himself after.
He's the one that fires Center Point, right?
Yeah,
And yeah.
he re-dictats himself after coming out of jail the first time,
Mhm.
and then he's not allowed to do anything else
Maybe put him
after.
in jail for longer. I don't know.
Yeah, like he does it. He does this a lot, and always with Centerpoint too. Like he doesn't
Mhm.
change his playbook at all. He just
Mhm.
keeps doing the same shit, and yeah,
Yeah.
not an original thinker.
Mhm.
But no one stops. So like maybe I shouldn't say that because literally no one ever stops him until after he's already done a lot of what he wants to do.
Mm-hmm.
So you know what? It's working for you. Fucking congratulations.
Yeah, I mean, he gets to be evil for a long time. He's just completely self-serving, doesn't give a shit, just does whatever he wants. So, yeah, good shit. Anything else you want to mention about this book? I enjoyed it. I thought it was good. I thought it was pretty well written for a Bantam era book. It didn't have like too much weirdness. Yeah, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I enjoyed it too. You already gave your 4. I think I already
Yeah.
implied a 3. Or sorry, you gave B. I gave a C. We do have the
Hmm.
rankings listed in the spreadsheet linked in the description.
Hmm.
Uh, and in the show notes if you're listening to the audio version. I'm apparently so it doesn't like right now I'm obviously being harder on this than you are based on that letter, but like
Hmm.
generally I think I come across as more positive on some of the books than you,
Yeah, I thought
but
so as well.
my rankings are on average a fair bit lower than yours.
Hmm.
Like you have a lot more B's than I do. I have like one more A than you, but more C's, more
Yeah.
D's, same amount of F's. But
Yeah, I was surprised because for me, I would have guessed that you had more highly ranked ones and more low ranked ones, and I kind of was more in the middle. But it turns out that you don't rate that many. I think you did before we changed them, but yeah, it seems like you're just harsher than I am.
yeah, I'm a dick.
Yeah, what can we say, folks? I knew it. I was just yeah, I just didn't want to say it out loud.
I burn my copies of all the books that get lower than a C after the podcast, which is really awkward when we re-rank them and I bring it up a little bit. I have to buy a new one.
And I was looking for this book and I don't have it here. It must be at my house, but I have 2 copies of friggin' Assault on Salonia.
God.
So I had to read this one on my Kindle, which is not a bad way to read it, but
When I was looking for all the used copies of the books over the last 2 years, like right up till when COVID really
mm-hmm,
hit, I went to like every used bookstore in Ottawa a few times, and there were just so many copies of pretty much every book that's the middle of a trilogy. So it was Dark
mm-hmm.
Force Rising everywhere, Assault at Salonia everywhere, and like there were so many copies of Assault at Salonia at 2 or 3 of the stores. I don't know
Probably why I have 2 of
how
them.
many there. Yeah, I don't know how they all got there.
Hmm.
It's like
Yeah,
there were apparently a
someone
lot of
just
people who wanted to buy the other 2, but not that one.
this book's gonna be really disappointing, I guess.
Hmm. Yeah, I did really enjoy
Um,
it. I think it's good stuff. I think we're getting into more of the actual plot development in the next ones, but the
mhm.
setup was good. The
Okay.
character moments were fun. Q9's a good character that we haven't named explicitly yet, but
Yeah, he's really fun. He's like sassy R2D2,
yeah.
and he's like a droid. He's like me if I were a droid. Anytime like a new graphics card comes out, he wants to install it into himself.
Yeah.
Which is like, yeah, if you, I think anyone who's a droid would want to, not have shitty parts. And
Yeah.
he's like, you could, they'll like they'll ask his owner things about him, and he's like, bitch, I'm right here.
Yeah.
Like, look me in the eyes and ask me the question. Yeah,
Yeah, so he probably would have joined IG-88's rebellion after this kind of treatment.
big time. Although he does like to serve, so
That's true. Well,
I think he just wants to be
yeah,
treated with respect,
yeah,
which fair enough.
he deserves it.
He does.
He's great.
He's very very useful.
All right. So we had a couple
You didn't give your
emails we
actual
skipped.
rating though. You didn't give your actual rating.
I said C.
You're going C. Okay.
Yeah, that puts me at
So,
one more C than you. I win.
mm-hmm. So slightly below average.
No, C is average.
Is C what we went with the average? Okay,
C is
then I'll give this.
average. Like A, B, C, D, F are the main ones.
Okay.
Then S was
Yeah, I'll
only
give
like
this one.
super
I'm gonna
special.
give this one a C too. Then that's my
Okay.
mistake. Yeah.
Okay.
I thought
There we
we
go.
were. Yeah. Okay. I'll give this one a C as well.
Like technically, it's not the middle rank. Like C or B would both be middle, but like S was
Yeah, it was
reserved for
S.
like
I
super
forgot.
good.
That's why I was confused. Okay,
Okay.
this will be a C for me then.
Then everything's back balanced. We have exactly the same number of C's.
C's get degrees.
and how. All right.
So shall we tackle a few questions then,
we do
Mr. Glory?
have a good number of emails to get through.
Okay, let me just pull this up. So we got one during the show. This was from. Where is it? Did we go? Oh yeah. It says Mickey here. He says, "Hee ha ho! You better buff Starhawk and put it in the main mod, or I'll break your kneecaps." So that was from Mickey. Thank you very
Right.
much. What was the first one? I think was it Clams? Maybe the last
No,
one?
it was Joel. It's from the ranking episode.
Okay.
So Joel is asking, do you think overall that Star Wars is going for more of a fantasy-like direction in its storytelling and that nowadays, or do you think certain types of stories will just be off limits or not attempted in terms of the types of universe Star Wars is trying to make under Disney? For example, would something like an alien threat invading the galaxy like the Vong did in NJO be a story told these days, or do you think something like NJO is going to be simply a product of its time and not replicated?
I don't. I don't see why there's any reason that I don't really think they're limiting stuff like that. I think the main reason why an NJO type story wouldn't get put out is because they're limiting the scale right now.
Mhm.
But I don't think that's like because of the genre or anything.
Yeah, like I think we've seen a few places where there have been a more definite like fantasy bent as far as the genre goes, but we've seen a good variety outside of that as well.
Mm-hmm.
And especially with like vision style stuff, they seem to be pretty open to a wider variety of approaches to what's going on there. Like the tone in the High Republic versus the tone in Alphabet Squadron is super different. So like there's more of a fantasy style on one end versus a sci-fi or drama style on the other. So I don't think genre is a place that'd be limited very much. I also don't
Mm-hmm.
think the like an extragalactic invasion would be off limits, or a bigger project like that would be off limits. You have that a little bit with
High
how
Republic.
the Nihil and Drengir are
Oh
represented
yeah,
in the High Republic.
yeah.
Even though it's not like the main focus is like how are we going to deal with this threat from outside the galaxy, you can
Mm-hmm.
definitely get another thing like that. They do seem to want to have these bigger projects with multiple authors on it, which is kind of the thing that defines the NJO.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we could easily see another thing like that after the High Republic's out, and maybe especially after they go into more post Rise of Skywalker era things.
Yep, I agree. So next up we have Mr. Clam, who sent us a Jedi Luke and Callista fan page.
Oh my god.
Okay, I gotta check this out. I don't know why I'm pulling this up
Oh,
on my
for fuck's
phone.
sakes.
Oh my goodness.
Welcome to the Jedi Soulmates page, Jedi Callie's tribute to Luke Skywalker and Callista Ming.
Oh my goodness, guys! Make sure you go check this out yourself. It's Jedi Callie CALLIE.tripod.com. If you look up Jedi Soulmates, it'll probably come up as well. There's a fan fiction page.
What year is this? Okay. Visitor number 5026 since October 20th, 1099. Or 1999, not 1099.
We gotta get those numbers up, baby.
Yeah. So we'll keep an eye on this throughout the month, maybe. We'll do a Jedi Callie update.
Yeah, although it's kind of like this thing where it's so beautiful that like, and it's preserved in a way, that I will be a bit sad if like it somehow blew up. But
Yeah, I'd also be sad if anyone went there with the intention of like harassing this person.
oh yeah,
So
don't do that.
please don't fucking do that.
Yeah,
Just go appreciate it for what it is. Take only pictures. Leave only
Leave only-
cookies.
leave only cookies.
I guess it's take only
Well, they'll
cookies.
take-
Leave
yeah.
only. Leave only good
Screenshots.
vibes. Leave only a visitor count ticker.
Oh, this is great stuff. And she's got there's a mailing list. Oh my goodness, this is good stuff. Let me check the guest book. Oh, it's not public. There's also fan fiction.
Okay, leave only guest book entries saying nice things and that Tapcaf sent you.
Yeah. Unfortunately, Planet of Twilight is the last Star Wars book in which Callista appears. Hopefully, this will change in the future. Smiley
I don't know if you want to read where she does.
face. Yeah.
Things do not go uphill for old Callista.
Sure. Imagine the writer of this page reading that and just ugly crying in Fate of the Jedi.
Oh no.
Want to have Barbara Hamley write for the new Jedi Order series published by Del Rey? Let Del Rey know. She's trying to have an email campaign so Barbara Hamley will write an NJO novel. I never heard of Callie as a nickname for Callista. Does Luke use that? I can't remember.
I don't think anyone does. No.
Yeah. She's also got like a Mark Hamill fan page as well, which is fun, which has more views, 21,000. This is good stuff. Very good stuff.
All right. Well, thank you, Clam.
Yeah.
Please, no one go and be mean to the
I mean, to be fair, I doubt that AOL account is still.
It's probably not, but you never know. The internet always finds a way to harass someone.
Yeah.
Our next email from HelloFresh.
Well, less interesting. This one from Chris, who says, one Star Wars plot point I could never come close to comprehending is that of hyperspace lane taxation. The closest image that comes to mind is colonial mercantilism, but I don't see how it's possible for any nation to tax a hyperspace lane, considering lanes exist outside of normal space, and the whole point is that you travel along stars and planets. Do groups like Republic just set up multiple interdictors and force ships coming out of hyperspace to tax like a space tollway? How does that work? I kind of figured it. I'm pretty sure that question is answered in Plagueis, when they talk about like how it's kind of, because they talk about kind of the prelude to like the events of episode 1. But I mean, there's multiple different ways you can imagine it. Maybe like a planet has to pay a certain amount of tax on like interstellar trade.
Yeah.
That goes like through its planet through hyperspace lanes. Maybe. Do you know the answer, Corey?
Yeah, I think it's basically that, where like when you go between planets, there's a record that you're like going from here to here selling this. So especially for commercial stuff, and that's why smugglers are able to exist, because they're kind of skirting that part. Not that you'd go up to like. It's not like going like on a border crossing and driving up to the guy. You don't park your Star Destroyer and then hand some credits out the window. It's more of like tracking where you've been and paying off that. It's probably a lot of self-reporting as well. So the same way that you're expected to not lie on your taxes, or else you'd get in trouble with the IRS or CRA. Like there's probably the Republic revenue, the RRS, that looks at all that stuff. That would be my assumption. I don't think it was ever considered interesting enough to like go too in depth on, but
I think you're right. Next question is from Seamus, who says, "Hey, Eck and Corey, I have a question and a suggestion. My question is whether you guys think the New Republic and later GA experienced too many wars and conflicts. As to my suggestion, someone asked whether you thought the reboot indecision to discontinue the Legends continuity was necessary. Sorry, I can't read today. In the episode, Corey said it might be worth doing a whole episode on that topic. Now that you finished Young Jedi Knights and are nearing NJO, I thought it'd be a good idea to decide an episode on the topic in a nearest future episode." So basically an episode all about the decanonization, and the question is whether there were too many wars. What do you think?
Specific topical episodes can definitely be something that we do. Maybe like a variety pack of topics for some of the intermediate episodes, and especially if we do like another mailbag episode, because I think people enjoyed that one. So that might be something that gets some time in that, or a bit more time in that. But I don't know, like it's always going to be a thing where there gets more and more wars slotted in because it's Star Wars, and that's the thing that's interesting to read about. And people similarly don't want to have these large gaps where they don't know what's happening. So if they're going to write in that period, there's going to be some kind of conflict going on. And then like maybe you'll get some like debate over the legal definition of a war in the Republic, so they can claim they weren't actually at war during this time because it was just executive action rather than something the Senate allowed or actually declared war in. And that it no one would enjoy reading the specifics of that, but
speak for yourself. Yeah, I pretty much agree on both points. After that, we have Javier, who says, "Hello, Corey. Just after reading Ronin and enjoying the base concept of the universe, it got me thinking that this is exactly how the Old Republic should be written in canon, with the Jedi not exactly being a united faction, whether that would be political, ideological, or family reasons, and with the Sith always uniting but then turning on each other at the worst possible moment. This could be the best way to have interesting stories, characters, and storylines for the Old Republic instead of just having black and white Sith versus Jedi like we had in the Legends continuity. I think that this would, for a better lack of a better term, give us the Game of Thrones vibe for storytelling. What do you think of that?
Do you want to answer first? I'm gonna reread it.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a bad idea. I think people will be disappointed though if we don't at some point have the big Jedi Sith
Yeah.
wars. But I mean, I think there's room for both as well. Where like that could be the end of the. Like I did a video. I don't know if you feel the same way, Corey, because I know you just did a big timeline video. But for me, like, I just did a video or like a week of videos on the Sith, and like, I found the constant emerging and re-emerging to be kind of exhausting, or emerging being extinct. Like it works once. It works, I think, like for the Old Republic. I think them coming out after like 1,000 years or however long it is, I think that works. But like after that, like countless wars and like it's gotta be there's gotta be kind of a more interesting way to do it, I think. Some way. I'm not sure what that is, but
Yeah, like we have a timeline for the Sith War and the 100-Year Darkness in canon from Tarkin again, and it gets mentioned like as that being a kind of consistent thing. I've actually got another video coming out this weekend about that. So I do agree that I wish it was a little bit more like this was the big one. Maybe there's some other conflict between them, and then they go into hiding after they like even if it's a longer war, which like the 100-Year Darkness, you'd have it be that and be a bit longer. That there's a reason for the Jedi to consider them like this big enemy from the past or a traditional enemy, but having big Sith empires that are lasting all this time and then going away and coming back, I don't like that quite as much.
You don't want to do the big wasn't the one before Rusan like 1,000 years?
Yeah,
like
the new
one?
Sith Wars were 1,000 years of
too
almost
goddamn
constant warfare.
It's too goddamn long, especially for only being 1,000 years before the trilogy.
Yeah.
Like if you're gonna do something like that could be interesting, where like the Sith and the Jedi are kind of like ubiquitous for a while, and like there is conflict for like 1,000 years might like beyond time, kind of that idea. Like I think that's okay, but have that be like very very far in the past. Yeah.
Thank you, Javier. So our next question comes from Joel, who asks, do you consider the Galactic Empire a Sith Empire like the Sith Empires of old, or is it all just an authoritarian empire ruled over by the Sith at first?
Yeah, that's a tough one. I when I do videos, I refer to them as a Sith Empire. Like I did a video on like all the Sith Star Destroyers or Sith warships, and I included the Star Destroyer. I think practically it is. So yeah, I don't think there's any real reason to make the distinction. The only real difference is that it was like probably the first rule of 2 Sith empires, so it's a little different because there's only like 1 or 2 Sith versus like Sith empires of the past where there was, you know, a million.
Yeah, it's kind of like how we have the British monarch, but we're not British. So it's more like that, where like it is technically a de facto Sith empire, but like by being in the empire, you are not considered part of the Sith. There were some people in the empire who were considered part of the Sith, but there wasn't like Sith branding all over the place. So
right.
Like
I mean, yeah, maybe the Dark Empire was a bit more Sithy in that way,
Yeah.
probably.
Like,
although, yeah.
if you were in Nazi Germany to be part of the government, you basically had to be part of the Nazi party, but you didn't necessarily have to be a Sith to be part of the administration.
And that's like compared with when you read Darth Bane, even the Sith fighters, like the warriors who don't have force powers, like the soldiers, they're still called Sith. Like is a comparison compared to like the Empire, or like they're called Sith citizens. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whereas like the Empire is just like there is a Sith running it, so in that way, yeah, but you know, it's a little different.
Yeah. So mostly yes, but technically no, I think is the answer there.
Or technically yes, mostly no. One of the two.
It's on somewhere on the continuum of Sithy enough to be called a Sith Empire if you want, but not as Sithy as the old Sith Empires.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure if I just called the Queen a Sith or a Nazi. I guess I didn't call her a Nazi.
I'll say she's both.
Yeah, well, I'm not saying
I'll
she's
just
not.
say she's both.
Yeah.
I was playing. Yeah. Anyway, we got a few emails from Marge, kind of acting as comments. I'll just read a few of these. Thracken Sal-Solo is the Sam Hyde of the Star Wars universe. He should have been forcefully married to Tatchum, and the two of them given an Nilspar escapade pod honeymoon. Nilspar escape. I like that escape pod honeymoon. Yeah. I do think that the author's intent there was to leave Nilspar open, possibility of returning, but I don't think anyone found him compelling enough as a villain.
Yeah, it's like with Thrawn getting eaten by the whale, where Thrawn is definitely coming back and Nilspar is just left out there to die.
Yeah. Like, it's like there's one fan who's just like posting on the message boards like every week, like hints to Nilspar returning.
He's the big villain in the next Star Wars movie. That'd be something that I don't expect to get pulled back into new canon. The Yavitha and Nilspar specifically. I'm gonna put my chips down on that right now.
The Hapens are hardly in yet, so yeah. I'll read one more from Marge. They say the timeline of this actually does contradict a few other things. McCampbell Lectu, the Foz was supposedly in power since 12 ABY when they joined the New Republic. Huh? Franz?
The Fonz.
What did I say?
It's better than anything you said, don't worry.
Okay, cool. Starfighters of Adamar also has Wedge meant in the Dictat. Basically, Space Franco in the most negative sense, neutral, but still a thorn on the side of the good guys, is still in charge, preventing the rebels new. Okay, so just comments about kind of timeline stuff. So thank you for all that extra information, Marge. Sorry I struggled to read so many emails today. I don't know what's wrong with me. I think I'm drunk or something.
Yeah, this is the one Thursday night where we won't be drunk in like 2 years.
Yeah, I know. My liver is just like, thank you for this.
God bless.
I needed this more than you know.
All right. Anything else you want to mention next week? So I guess the initial plan would be, if we're going to talk about Disney Plus Day, it would be then, unless we end up doing something before then.
Yeah, we won't be reading a book. If we do something, we'll tweet it out, I guess, but not a book.
Not a book.
Yeah.
Not a book.
Not a book.
I'm just not sure if there's going to be enough to talk about from D Plus Day, and if there is a week out from now, like way beyond when it's totally irrelevant.
I don't know. I just don't really have any other ideas.
No idea.
My main problem.
We do need to pick our next kind of side series that we want to do, whether it's going to be comics or another one of the young reader series.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe Jedi Prince or something. I don't know.
We'll figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
We could just say we'll do Jedi Prince next week, and that just the first book of it. It's 100 pages. Okay. And then if we want to talk about Disney Plus stuff, if there's enough to talk about, then there will be. If not, then it'll just be a short episode on Jedi Prince.
Okay, I'm down for that. All right, so we'll meet young Ken next week, aka